When we self-host, we are deploying our services, we are opening up ports, we are playing around with networking, we're exposing our services to the internet so our friends, family, and whatnot can use it. But the thing that we need to make sure that we are doing is protecting ourselves. We're protecting our home network, we're protecting our servers, and all of the services that are running. How many of you right now are running a security tool across all of your infrastructure that you're monitoring and that you can see any alerts? I don't know how many of you are raising your hands, but in this video, I am going to show you the security tool that you can use. It's free, it's fantastic, it's called Wazuh, and I'm going to show you in this video how it works and how you can also get it deployed. Now, before we get into the video, I am running a giveaway with Give Internet. Now, Give Internet are out there helping students in, war-stricken countries, third world countries, countries that don't have internet or access to laptops and all of that good stuff to get onto the internet, to get that better education, further that education, and actually see what's out there. So I'm running a bit of a giveaway with them, a merch giveaway. So there's some shirts here. I've just got a couple that I have, but there's a few more out there. So here's just a couple as an example. There will be a link in the description and a pinned comment where you can go to my Discord that has a giveaway. Enter that giveaway, and at the time of this video, it's 6 days, well, about 7 to 6 days. After that, 3 winners will be picked. I will contact you via the Discord, grab your email address, and we can get that merch all sorted for you. Also, if you're keen on supporting Give Internet, there'll be a link in the description as well where you can support them as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. So when it comes to the security of our network, we want a single pane of glass to be able to see all of our services, and that's what Wazuh gives us, right? So the structure of this video, I'm going to just show you an overview of my working environment right now, and then if you're keen on understanding on how you can go about installing it, I'll take you through the install process with a whole fresh new VM and everything like that. But let's just have a look at what we've got here. So a great place to start, if we come down under the threat detection and response, what this is giving us is vulnerabilities for first off. And the way this works is that you have a central server, okay? And that's where Wazuh is running right now. And then once you've got your central server set up, you can set up agents, right? So as you can see, I have one running on my MacBook, which is the one that I'm using right now. I have Electron Cloud, which is my main server. And then I have Windy, which is just my gaming PC, right? So the great thing about this is, let's say I want to see how secure my Ubuntu VM is right now. You can see straight away a high level view that I have 5 critical vulnerabilities. I need to make sure I get those sorted, right? I've got 11 high ones, 19 medium, and 11 low. And if I scroll down here, I can see exactly what they are. I can see, okay, there's my critical vulnerability there, and then I can work on getting that patched. If you want as well a breakdown of all the events as they come through, you can see them here as well. You can see, if they've been solved, if they're still active, stuff like that, right? This is something, unless you're running a tool like this, like a SIEM tool, which stands for Security Information and Event Management, you wouldn't have this view, right? So this is so important for us. And the fact that Wazuh is free, it's open source, and you can just deploy it and away you go, there's no excuse not to run something like this. So this is the vulnerabilities tab. Again, you can see all of this, which is fantastic, but there's so much more. You've got things like integrity monitoring. Now, integrity monitoring is awesome. This is constantly checking your machines and seeing what files have changed over time and how they change. So if we come over, for example, we're on my Electron Cloud server still, we're looking at this. So if we come over to the events, what we can see is, we can see files have been deleted. We can see certain files have been modified. Now, you might be asking, why is this important? So let's say, for example, you had a security issue, right? Someone got into your server, or someone has been trying to get into your server. What you'd see is all these specific files been modified or deleted, and you can come through here and check out what was the path? What have they done? How did they get to where they are? You can see every single thing that changed on your server and at what time, what day, and if we come down and click into it, you get a way bigger breakdown of what's going on. And this is all being given to you, and you can even specify specific directories, right? So let's say on my desktop, on my Windows machine, I wanted to monitor the desktop directory. So anything that anyone was making new files there, that would all come up. That was a file was created, a file was deleted on the desktop. All of that stuff you can set up and track through here. Now, if you're like me and you love using containers for everything, they have a module for that as well, which is called the Docker Listener. So if we click into here, and we select an agent. So let's say I want to see what my Electron Cloud is running a bunch of virtual machines. We can see key commands that these containers are running. So if I come into events here, I just made it slightly bigger for you. I can see what's happening, what my containers are doing. So I can see that, they're constantly doing, health checks. So a lot of my containers have health checks just to make sure that they're up, and they run commands every now and then to actually check that. And I can see that my containers are kind of just doing that all the time. So here you can see, if I open this up a little bit, you can see what commands have been run. So you can see, okay, so it's running this command here. And you can see the name of the container, all of this good information. So again, if a container went haywire, or if you ran a command and it broke everything and then you lost it, don't worry, that command was tracked here. You can come back and see. If there's a security issue, someone managed to get into a container or whatever, you can track and see what those commands were, how widespread the damage was. It's just a very important tool to have. Now, if we come over back to the dashboard, I want to show you another piece here. There's so much here. Again, there's no point me going into everything, but I'll try to cover as much as I can. So we've got the virus total here as well. Now, the way the virus total works is that you enable the module, but then you've got to get an API key, which is free, that you supply to Wazuh. And then what's awesome is now it's tracking actual malicious files on your machines via the agents. Then it's all in a single pane of glass, right? You can see, oh, have I got any malicious files on not just the servers, but on my, my Windows machine or my MacBook. It's all being tracked here. So I can see on my server, there's nothing malicious, right? It's all good. And if I come to my MacBook, I can see again, I've got nothing malicious here, but I have that single pane of glass now, so that I can just be, I can set up alerts, or I could just, make this maybe a regular thing that I'm checking. It's all here. Right, and another cool thing, so rather than going through all these individual panels here, what I could go and just select a agent directly. So let's say my Electron Cloud, I want to select that one. Let's select that. We get a high level view of what's going on with the server as well. So we straight away get the, a latest view of the integrity. So the file integrities, what's going on, a little high level view, any of the latest scans. So the great thing about this one is, it's going up against a security benchmark called the CIS Ubuntu Linux benchmark. And if we click in here, we can see how well our machine is configured based off this benchmark, which has a lot of security controls that it suggests you have. And you can see my score is 41%, right? So there's a few things I can do to lock up and tighten the security of my server. And it's all been provided here for me. It's saying, hey, look, ensure that your temp directory is a separate partition. And there's a whole bunch of things that if you're really keen on doing, especially if you're a business and your servers need to be security tightened, you've got it here. This is your tool. Run it, set up your Wazuh server, deploy your agent, and now you can check and track how compliant your machines are. And the great thing about this, if we go into the drop down button on the right hand side here, it's going to give us a full breakdown on why you want this and how you go about remediating it, right? So the rationale around why you should have this, the remediation around it, and then a bit of a description as well. You can also see that this here, this ensure the temp directory is a separate partition. You can see what other compliance certifications need this, and you're all getting this just from a single pane of glass. It's crazy. And you can export this. You can, if you're in a meeting and you needed to review this, it will give you that. You can go export the formatted document and it will download the file. And when it comes to a tool like this, I could spend hours going through all the individual components, all the fantastic functionality that it gives you. But I think I've covered the key points, whether or not you are going to make a decision whether or not you're going to use this. So it's for the ones that are really keen on understanding more about how to get started with this. I'm now going to show you how you can set up Wazuh server, and then also how you can deploy an agent and just get started using it. Okay, so we are in my Proxmox environment. So what we need is a VM. You can already see that I have a dedicated machine for my Wazuh server, which is running here. Now the base specs are 4 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM. You can see it's using about 90% of that memory now. Maybe I could give it a little bit more. And I've given it a 70 gig size drive. Now I'm going to replicate that again, and I will spin up a VM right now. Here's our server. Right, so now we can SSH into this, and we will follow the documentation for installing Wazuh, and I'll take you through the process of setting up your server. Right, so we have connected to my Wazuh demo VM now. So this is just running Ubuntu, okay? Now, in the documentation that I'll have for the install guide, it goes over all the prereqs, which is all here. So you can see all the requirements here. So, you know, if you're running 1 to 25 agents, I recommend 4 vCPU, 8 gig of RAM, and 50 gigs. So this is the specs of my machine at the moment. And then it's saying here, it's an operating system. So you can use the Amazon Linux. So if you're using AWS, they have this Linux variant here. CentOS, Ubuntu with a few versions. Now I'm using 22.04 for my deployment at the moment. Then you've got Red Hat Enterprise as well. If you are trying to figure out which one to go for, just go with Ubuntu. Trust me. It's just easier that way. And the great thing about this is they just give you a install script to set up your entire server. Okay, it's crazy how easy this deployment is. With a tool like this, you'd think there would be a bit of complexity to it. Well, there's a little bit, but nothing crazy, and it's pretty straightforward if you follow the documentation. So let's grab this link here. So let's paste that command in now. We'll hit enter. We'll put our password in for sudo. Hit enter. And we'll let this deployment go. Of course, I always get my password wrong the first time. There we go. So now it's going to start that install process for us, and we'll just sit back and wait for that to complete. So while that's installing, I just want to show you. So the install is made up of 3 components. So you've got the indexer, the server, and the dashboard. So you could go and install this all one by one, but the great thing is with the installer script, it just installs everything for you. It installs all 3 of those components without, you having to do them individually. So you can see it here, right? So you can see here's the indexer here that they're getting installed. And there we go, it's being deployed. So we can see we can access it on this address here. So HTTPS, the IP address of our server, and then on port 443, and the username is admin, and it's given us our initial password here. Right, so we'll put the IP address in here. Sorry, it might be a bit small at the top here, but we'll go 192.168.68.115 and hit enter. There we go. So it's a self-signed key, so you're going to get this connection is not private. If you've done self-hosting for a little bit, this will be, it's not new to you. We'll go visit website and we'll log in. And we're at the login page here. So now we can put in our admin for the user, grab our password, head back over, we'll chuck this in the password field and hit log in. Now it's just going to make sure that everything is running. You've got your API, your index, the monitoring, all of that's up and running. As soon as it is, we are brought in. So I just want to make it clear real quick as well. So you might notice that under the threat detection and response, there's not as many options under there than what's in my server. So if I jump into mine, I've got a few more things going on. These are just modules that you enable, and these are all in the documentation on how you can go about doing it. Now, if you're keen on actually going and deploying Wazuh, join my Discord, and if you're keen on understanding how you can install these modules, you get a bit stuck, jump in there and ask, and I'll help you get this set up because I think this is really cool. But I'm not going to cover all of this because it'll be like a 2-hour long video, and not everyone's going to actually want all of these modules, but if you're keen and need a bit of hand, I'll help you. So anyway, we've got this deployed now. So what we can do is actually add an agent. So there's 2 ways to go about it. You can click the add agent here, and it will take you through the process of doing that, and it'll give you the command to run on your machine. Or under the quick start, if we just come down, there's the next steps on deploying the agent. So I could click Linux because I'm going to deploy this on a Linux machine, and it will take you through the process of doing the same thing. But since we already have our Wazuh deployed, we might as well just go through here. So I'll deploy this on my Zimmerboard server. So that's an AMD 64 architecture, so we'll click that. And the server address. So this is the address the agent uses to communicate to the server. So that's the address of Wazuh. So I can literally just come up here and grab that and paste that down here. Under optional settings, we can give the agent a name. Otherwise, by default, it will just grab the host name. I'm happy with it just using the host name, so that's fine. And you can actually select groups that your agents could go into. So let's say if you're a company, you could say, hey, look, this is the IT department set of agents. We've got HR's set, or whatever. However you ever want to set up the groups, you can do that. I'm just going to use the default groups for now. And then based off the information you've provided up the top, it will give you a command for that. So you can see here, it's got my IP address and everything ready to go. So I can copy this, go to my server and deploy it, and it all should just work. So let's give this a try. Right, so let's connect to my Alzim server. So this is it here. Let's just connect to that. I'm just going to show you the whole process. I'm not doing anything different. This is just me connecting to my server and running that command. So we'll paste that command and hit enter. And there we go. So it's been deployed. So let's go check out the last set of instructions we need to do. So you can see we need to do a daemon reload and enable the agent and start the agent. So let's copy those commands, come back over and paste those in and hit enter. It's going to just create a symlink and then it's going to enable that service. And there we go. So we've done all the commands here. If I close this now and we'll come back up to the home screen, total agents 1. Crazy. Now if we click on this, we get a high level view. Now you're not going to see a bunch of information straight away because it will do, based on the first connection, it will do all the scans that you have configured, right? But after that, I think they're about 12 hours by default. So you won't see things happen straight away unless you want to change that configuration. But let's just click on the agent anyways and see what we have. So again, from a high level view, before all the information comes in, we can see, our benchmark score, 41%. Seems to be a bit of a thing going around in my environment. I really need to tidy some of these things up. Now, things like integrity monitoring, you can see there's not too much going on here. Just because those logs haven't come through, or we haven't actually enabled those features yet. And that's the last piece I want to cover. So again, I will help you if you want to understand how you go around configuring this more, but you'll see a lot of documentation will tell you to edit like a config file. But the great thing with that, whenever you need to edit your Wazuh config file on your server, this will make more sense when you're actually doing it, but I'm going to show you anyways. You can come down to this drop down, go to management and go to configuration, edit the configuration, and now all the settings that you would like to set up for your server are here. So a couple of things I just want to scroll down. You can see this is where a lot of your settings are configured and any modules are configured as well. So if we scroll down here, we can see, there's our synchronization. We've got our scans enabled. Yes. We've got our vulnerability detector, right? So that's what checks your vulnerabilities. You can see that this isn't enabled. So I actually want this enabled, please. So I can change that to yes. And now depending on what you're scanning, you can enable those scans on those distributions or on those operating systems. So, I'm using Ubuntu OS on that Alzim server, so I want to make sure that's enabled. I'm not using Debian, Red Hat, Amazon, or anything like that on this, but you can see these are where you can enable them. Some of them are enabled by default, like Windows. And then, again, I don't want to spend too much time here, but you've got your file integrity monitoring. This is enabled by default. And there's some locations that are going to be scanned by default, but if you want to add more things in here, like the desktop or whatever like that, you can add those locations here, and then once we're ready, we can hit save, and this will save our configuration for us. And then once it's saved, we can restart the manager as well, and this will restart the the Wazuh service, and then these new changes will get kicked into place, and we should see our file integrity monitoring coming through as well. Sorry, our vulnerability, what we've just enabled here, the vulnerability detector, this will be enabled, and we should see things come through. So that's been restarted. Go back to the main screen, come to vulnerabilities, and again, it takes time for things to come through. Now, while we're waiting for any of the vulnerabilities to come through, you can see that the documentation is fantastic on this. And you can see here, it's telling you, like I was saying, it's telling you to edit that file, but we can just edit it in the actually web interface if we want. And it's just saying, hey, look, make sure that's enabled as yes, set yes to the operating systems that you want, restart the service, and away you go. So that's the same how it is for all the modules that you would like to enable. They show you exactly what to put in, what to change, and restart the manager, and that module will be enabled. The documentation is fantastic. Right, so it looks like the vulnerabilities are going to take a while to come through, but again, if we go to my actual server that's configured the exact same way, and then under vulnerabilities, this is where you can see it again. I've shown you this before, but they all just come through and you can see what's going on in your environment. So that's Wazuh, and it's such an awesome name, and there really is no excuse to run something like this. Now, I can understand when you look at something like this, you go, oh, it's a bit of a burden, right? You know what's a big burden is getting a security breach on your home lab, on your home network, and people, destroying or stealing content and information that you have because you were exposed or there's a vulnerability that you weren't aware of. You need to have something like this. A security tool like this needs to go hand in hand with you just running your general services. The approach to self-hosting should be create your server, create your security tool, create your new servers, and that all the agents get deployed on those, so everything is tracked and logged, and that's just your standard operation for how you go about doing your home labs or whatever you're doing, even if you're a business. Security should never be the final thought. It should always be first, because if you leave it to another day to get sorted, that other day will turn into next week, a month, and then you get hit with a hack or a vulnerability or whatever, and now you go, well, in hindsight, I should have had that before. So get this installed into your home lab. It might be intimidating, but the learning is going to be fantastic around this. We're all learning every day when it comes to self-hosting. So if this looks like a bit too much, just spend some time, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes during the day. Just make the first step to get this set up and your agents configured, because at least you've got some bare information coming in. Now, I feel like I could talk about this all day, but I think you get my point. So thank you so much for watching to this point. Again, if you're keen on the Give Internet merch giveaway that I've got, the link in the description to the Discord competition will be there in the description and in the pinned comment. So go check that out for a chance to win some cool merch. If you're into IT stuff, we all like our free swag. So go check that out. Also, feel free to support them as well. They're doing such an awesome cause. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye bye.